Welcome everybody to my channel. My name is Heine. This is Rainier Books. It is Booker season, almost Booker season. On August 1, the Booker Prize Foundation in London will announce its long list with 13 or 12, probably 13 titles, the so-called Booker dozen, to give you the nominees for this year's Booker Prize. And there are Booker videos here and there on the internet, a lot of predictions. I've made my prediction already 1 week ago, I think. And I saw videos by Charlotte Malloy and Scott from Gunpowder, Fiction and Plot, where they have picked their favorite Booker books from the 569 books that were ever from 1969 to 2022 nominated, longlisted, shortlisted, and winning the Booker Prize. 569 books. So what I did today, I might do that too, but what I did for today is that I looked at the winners of the Booker Prize from 1969 to 2022. And I sort of looked at the popular vote. The most popular vote on the internet is in Goodreads. So I looked up the winners. They're more than, they're 50, I think they're 56, 56 winners, because in 3 years we had 2 winners. And I looked up the Goodreads review average for these 56 winners, and my top 10 list, not my top 10 list, the top 10 popular vote of the Booker Prize winners, with the best Booker book in the end, and with the whole list in the end of this video, but with the winner, of course, coming at the bottom of this top 10 list, comes now. Coming in at number 10 on Goodreads from all the Booker winners is the winner of 2014 with an average of 4.02 points, The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. Richard Flanagan's story of Dorigo Evans, an Australian doctor haunted by a love affair with his uncle's wife, journeys from the caves of Tasmanian trappers in the early 20th century to a crumbling pre-war beachside hotel, from a tight jungle prison to a Japanese snow festival. That sounds so complicated. I haven't read that book. The Narrow Road to the Deep North is about the impossibility of love. At its heart is one day in a Japanese slave labor camp in August 1943. As the day builds to its horrific climax, Dorigo Evans battles and fails in his quest to save the lives of his fellow prisoner of wars. A man is killed for no reason, and a love story unfolds. Coming in at number 10. And you will see quite a lot of historical novels in the top positions. Number 9 is, with 4.04 points, The Bone People by Carrie Hume from 1985. In a tower on the New Zealand sea lives Carwyn Holmes, part Maori, part European, asexual and aromantic, an artist estranged from her art, a woman in exile from her family. One night her solitude is disrupted by a visitor, a speechless, mercurial boy named Simon, who tries to steal from her and then repays her with his most precious possession. As Carwyn succumbs to Simon's feral charm, she also falls under the spell of his Maori foster father, Joe, who rescued the boy from a shipwreck and now treats him with an unsettling mixture of tenderness and brutality. Out of this unorthodox trinity, Carrie Hume has created what it is at once a mystery, a love story, and an ambitious exploration of the zone where Indigenous and European New Zealand meet, clash, and sometimes merge. 4.09 points from 1995. Who knows who won in 1995? Yes, it was The Ghost Road by Pat Barker. The Ghost Road is the culminating masterpiece of Pat Barker's towering World War I fiction trilogy. The time of the novel in the closing months of the most senselessly savage of modern conflicts. In France, millions of men engaged in brutal trench warfare are all ghosts in the making. In England, psychologist William Rivers, with severe pangs of conscience, treats the mental casualties of the war to make them whole enough to fight again. One of these, Billy Pryor, risen to the officer class from the working class, both courageous and sardonic, decides to return to France with his fellow officer, poet Wilfred Owen, to fight a war he no longer believes in. Meanwhile, Rivers, enfevered by influenza, returns in memory to his experience studying a South Pacific tribe whose ethos mounted to a culture of death. Across the gulf between his society and theirs, Rivers begins to form connections that cast new light on his and our understanding of war, combining poetic intensity with gritty realism, blending biting humor with tragic drama, moving toward a denouement as inevitable as it is devastating. The Ghost Road both encapsulates history and transcends it. It is a modern masterpiece. Number 7, coming in from 1992, Barry Unsworth's novel Sacred Hunger with 4.11 points. Sacred Hunger is a stunning and engrossing exploration of power, domination, and greed, filled with the sacred hunger to expand its empire and its profits. England entered full into the slave trade and spread the trade throughout its colonies. In this Booker Prize-winning work, yes, it won the Booker Prize, Barry Unsworth follows the failing fortunes of William Kemp, a merchant pinning his last chance to a slave ship, his son who needs a fortune because he is in love with an upper-class woman, and his nephew who sails on the ship as its doctor because he has lost all he has loved. The voyage meets its demise when disease spreads among the slaves, and Captain, a drastic response provokes a mutiny. Joining together, the sailors and the slaves set up a secret utopian society in the wilderness of Florida, only to await the vengeance of the single-minded young Kemp. Coming in at number 6 here is a book that I've read. It's the first one that I can say I've read. Whoa! This is at 4.14 points, Nobel Prize winner Kazuo Ishiguro's novel The Remains of the Day from 1989. In the summer of 1956, Stevens, a long-serving butler at Darlington Hall, decides to take a motoring trip through the West Country. The 6-day excursion becomes a journey into the past of Stevens in England, a past that takes in fascism, 2 world wars, and an unrealized love between the butler and his housekeeper. A beautiful novel, beautiful language, The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Number 5, close to the medals, but not winning the medals. 4.19 points for The Testaments by Margaret Atwood from 2019. When the van door slammed on Offred's future at the end of The Handmaid's Tale, readers had no way of telling what lay ahead for her: freedom, prison, or death. With The Testaments, the wait is over. Margaret Atwood's sequel picks up the story more than 15 years after Offred snapped into the unknown, with the explosive testaments of 3 female narrators from Gilead. In this brilliant sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, acclaimed author Margaret Atwood answers the questions that have tantalized readers for decades. Number 4. Number 4, exactly. Number 4 is a woman that has won the Booker twice, as some others have also did. She won it twice, and she was also nominated for a 3rd time, and unfortunately she passed away last year. Of course, I'm speaking of Hilary Mantel. 4.28 points for the 4th position here for Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel, the winner of 2012, a historical novel. Though he battled for years to marry her, Henry VIII has become disenchanted with the audacious Anne Boleyn. She has failed to give him a son, and her sharp intelligence and strong will have alienated his old friends and the noble families of England. A lot of traffic here in the street in the evening, my gosh. Usually it's quiet. When the discarded Catherine, Henry's first wife, dies in exile from the court, Anne stands starkly exposed, the focus of gossip and malice, setting in motion a dramatic trial of the Queen and her suitors for adultery and treason. At a word from Henry, Thomas Cromwell is ready to bring her down. Over a few terrifying weeks, Anne is ensnared in a web of conspiracy, while the demure Jane Seymour stands waiting her turn for the poisoned wedding ring. But Anne and her powerful family will not yield without a ferocious struggle. To defeat the Boleyns, Cromwell must ally himself with his enemies, What price will he pay for Annie's head? And now to the medals. To the medals. 3 medals, bronze, silver, and gold. And bronze goes to, from the Goodreads readers, from the popular vote of all the Booker Prize winners from 1969 to 2022, to one of my favorite books ever. This is the winner of 2019, tying then with The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, but here she comes in as third with 4.31 points. This is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. It is a great book. It follows the lives of a set of black women in London. Girl, Woman, Other. It is the story of 12 very different characters, mostly women, black and British. They tell the stories of their families, their friends and their lovers across the country and through the years. Joyfully polyphonic and vibrantly contemporary. This is a gloriously new kind of history, a novel of our times, celebratory, ever dynamic, and utterly irresistible, and that is really so true. I can only compare this to Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, because when I read Girl, Woman, Other, I had the same feeling that I had with Demon Copperhead. You often read very good novels, but I read a lot of very good novels, but when I read Girl, Woman, Other, I knew I read something big, something really, really big. And that's the same feeling that I had when I read Demon Copperhead. Silver medal for all the Booker Prize winners. From all the Booker Prize winners, 56 books is with 4.32. It's only 1/100th of a point. Goes to Douglas Stewart's 2020 winner, Shuggie Bain. Shuggie Bain is the unforgettable story of young Hugh Shuggie Bain, a sweet and lonely boy who spends his 1980s childhood in rundown public housing in Glasgow, Scotland. Thatcher's policies have put husbands and sons out of work, and the city's notorious drugs epidemic is waiting in the wings. Shuggie's mother Agnes walks a wayward path. She is Shuggie's guiding light, but a burden for him and his siblings. She dreams of a house with its own front door while she flicks through the pages of the Freeman catalog, ordering a little happiness on credit, anything to brighten up her grey life. Married to a philandering taxi driver husband, Agnes keeps her pride by looking good. Her beehive, makeup, and pearly white false teeth offer a glamorous image of a Glaswegian Elizabeth Taylor. But under the surface, Agnes finds increasing solace in drink, and she drains away the lion's share of each week's benefits, all the family has to live on cans of extra strong lager hidden in handbags and poured into tea mugs. Agnes' older children find their own ways to get a safe distance from their mother, abandoning Shuggie to care for her as she swings between alcoholic binges and sobriety. Shuggie is meanwhile struggling to somehow become the normal boy he desperately longs to be, but everyone has realized that he is no right boy with a secret that all but him can see. Agnes is supportive of her son, but her addiction has the power to eclipse everyone close to her, even her beloved Shuggie. A heartbreaking story of addiction, sexuality, and love, Shuggie Bain is an epic portrayal of a working-class family that is rarely seen in fiction. Recalling the work of Edward Louis, Alan Hollinghurst, Frank McCourt, and Hanya Yanagihara, it is as blistering debut by a brilliant novelist who has a powerful and important story to tell. That was the silver medal. And now drum rolls, please. The winner of all the 56 books that have won the Booker Prize from 1969 to 2022 comes now. It won the prize when I was a teenager, still a teenager, in 1982. You know what it is, right? It is Schindler's Ark by Thomas Connelly with 4.34 points. Schindler's List, or Schindler's Ark as it was called in the beginning, recreates the true story of Oskar Schindler, the Czech-born southern German industrialist who risked his life to save over 100 of his Jewish factory workers from the death camps in Nazi-occupied Poland. Thomas Connelly is a documentary novel based on the recollections of the Schindler-Juden. Schindler himself and other witnesses is told in a series of snapshot stories. It recounts the lives of the flamboyant profiteer and womanizer Schindler. Schindler, a long-suffering wife, Emily, the brutal SS Nazi Secret Service Commandant Amon Good, Schindler's quietly courageous factory manager Itzhak Stern, and dozens of other Jews who underwent the horrors of the Nazi machinery. At the center of the story, though, are the actions and ambitions of Schindler, who comes to Krakow, Poland, seeking his fortune and ends up outwitting the SS to protect his Jewish employees. It is the story of Schindler's unlikely heroism and of one man's attempt to do good in the midst of outrageous evil. The book explores the complex nature of virtue, the importance of individual human life, the role of witnesses to the Holocaust, and the attention to rules and derails that sustained the Nazi system of terror. And that is the winner of all the Booker Prize winners in the popular vote. And yes, probably this book has beautiful music over there. This book has profited from the great movie that Steven Spielberg has made and was called Schindler's List, based on this book. A couple of years later, won a bunch of Oscars. If you haven't seen it, see it. If you haven't read the novel, read it. Sometimes I wrote my MA thesis on Peter Weiss, the German-Swedish author who did his famous documentary theater. He also wrote a play about the Holocaust called Die Ermittlung. And my MA thesis was called Because the World of Facts is So Dominating. Because he wrote this documentary theater style, which he did a lot of research on, and he brought the audiences in the world well-researched plays about the Holocaust, about colonialism of Portugal and Angola, about Vietnam, the Vietnam War and Vietnamese history, and other stuff. And Thomas Connelly has also shown that sometimes the world is so, what's happening in the world is so dominating that this is really important to tell. And Schindler's List was really a story that was so important to tell to all of us. And now I say bye to the next video. I will also make that list, but I have to look at the 569 titles that Scott and Charlotte have done. It comes a little bit later, so don't click away, because now comes the list of the 56 books after, from 11 to 56. So hasta la vista. Bye.